I'm with Rosie Ross, who has just collected signatures for a letter she has sent to the British MP Alistair Burt. Now, Rosie, who is Alistair Burt and why have you sent him a letter?
Alistair Burt has an important position in the British Foreign Office under William Hague. He is Minister for North Africa and the Middle East. I've written to him as I've been very concerned about his regular condemnations of Israeli policy with regard to the building in East Jerusalem and the West Bank. When I discovered that he's an evangelical Christian, I felt a burden to write and challenge him from a scriptural and legal viewpoint. The day before I heard about his very strong condemnation of Israel just after Christmas, several of us had been praying for the UK, and in particular for the British Foreign Office. We're concerned at the pro-Palestinian bias that there is there, and has been since the time of the British Mandate.
Now, what's been Alistair Burt been saying about Israel?
Well, he's been saying that Israel has been breaking the Fourth Geneva Convention and condemning the building of new homes in Jerusalem.
What is the Fourth Geneva Convention saying that he's saying that they're breaking?
The Fourth Geneva Convention was drawn up in the wake of World War II and after there were many Nazi atrocities. It was adopted as a treaty in 1949 and defines humanitarian protections for civilians in a war zone. Section 3 refers to occupied territories. Article 49 states that an occupier may not forcibly deport protected persons or deport or transfer parts of its own civilian population into occupied territory. No Israeli authority has ever deported citizens to Judea and Samaria, known as the West Bank. A remnant of Jewish people have lived in Judea and Samaria for centuries. Article 49(6) only applies when the transfer of the occupying power's civil population involves the displacement of the local population. Israeli settlements and building in East Jerusalem is not intended to displace Palestinians. To use the Fourth Geneva Convention as a rod to beat Israel is actually very questionable on other grounds. You have to accept that Israel is building in occupied territory when it is really building in territory that is rightly regarded as disputed. Danny Ayalon, the former Israeli foreign minister, explains this in a YouTube video of July 2011 that you can all see. The Levy report published in Israel last year also makes this matter clear. This report was made by a group headed by former Israeli Supreme Court Judge Edmund Levy.
Now, East Jerusalem is an Arab area, so is it wrong for Israel to be building in that area?
There's an assumption that East Jerusalem is an Arab area. In parts of it, there are many Arabs living, for example, in the Old City, in Silwan, Beit Hanina, and Bet Safafa. However, what the British government classes as East Jerusalem also includes Jewish areas such as Pisgat Ze'ev, Gilo, and Har Homa, where we live. These areas have been built since the 1967 war, when Israel captured these areas of Jerusalem and the West Bank from Jordan in a war she fought in self-defense against a huge Arab army buildup. This so-called Arab land had been illegally occupied by Jordan between 48 and 67. Between 1920 and 1948, during the time of the British Mandate, this land was included as part of the Jewish homeland under the terms of the San Remo Treaty, and according to a number of international jurists, including Howard Grief, this treaty is still valid under international law. In the legal foundations and borders of Israel under international law, Grief demonstrates that later UN resolutions do not supersede the 1920 San Remo Resolution. Thus, Israel has a legal right to build in East Jerusalem and Judea and Samaria. The Palestinian Authority and the Arab world in general want everyone to believe that all this land is Arab land, as they see it as such, as it was ruled by the Turkish Empire until 1917. And many Arabs have lived in this area. But spiritually, what happened in 1917 was very significant. Britain defeated the Turks and became the ruling power in the land. In other words, the land was no longer under the rule of an Islamic power, but instead under the jurisdiction of Great Britain, a Christian nation, in which many were sympathetic to the regathering of the Jewish people to their homeland. For Islam, this was a severe blow, and what is happening today is an attempt to win back territory that was lost to the infidel in 1917. Today's Palestinians are very largely Muslim, and they are doing all they can to reclaim this territory from Islam. We need to open our eyes to the spiritual battle over this land and turn our eyes to the scriptures that talk again and again about God bringing his people Israel back to their land and settling them there. Ezekiel 36, which I quoted in the letter to Alistair Burt, says in verse 10, "I will multiply men upon you, all the house of Israel, all of it, and the cities shall be inhabited, and the ruins rebuilt. I will multiply upon you man and beast, and they shall increase and bear young. I will make you inhabited as in former times, and do better for you than at your beginnings. Then you shall know that I am the Lord. Yes, I will cause men to walk on you, my people Israel. They shall take possession of you, and you shall be their inheritance. No more shall you bereave them of children."
Now, is Alistair Burt being fair to point the finger at Israel and not the Palestinian Authority as well?
This is completely unfair. In our letter to Mr. Burt, we point out to him that there are many reasons to condemn the Palestinian Authority. In May 2011, for example, figures were released to show that the PA is giving a monthly payment of salaries to 5,500 prisoners in Israeli prisons, and all these prisoners have been imprisoned for terror-related crimes. Also, it is normal within the PA for terrorists to be honored, terrorists who killed Israeli civilians, and these terrorists are regarded as heroes and role models. The PA's glorification of terrorist attacks, including suicide bombings, is something to really be deplored. There is even an encouragement of children to hate Jews, teaching them that it's good to kill Jewish people and to be a martyr for Allah. Regularly in the PA-controlled media and the PA schools, maps of Israel are shown which do not depict Israel at all. They depict Palestine, and all of Israel is erased. Israel just simply does not exist. Very recently, at the end of last year, Fatah came to an open rapprochement with Hamas in Gaza. Together, Fatah and Hamas celebrated 48 years since Fatah was founded with the aim of eliminating the State of Israel. The original Fatah National Charter has never been revoked. And then we can simply look to the recent UN bid for observer status for the PA at the United Nations. This bid broke the Oslo Accords because the PA were acting completely unilaterally.
And who else has this letter gone out to?
Okay, it's also gone to Her Majesty the Queen and to Baroness Caroline Cox in the House of Lords and to Daniel Taub, the Israeli ambassador to the UK. I didn't intend for it to go to these places, but friends in England asked if it could be sent, and I gave agreement.
And what sort of people have signed this letter?
We've got a mixture of people. We've got, I think the signatures are 25 Christians and Messianic Jews and 10 Orthodox people, but everyone has to be a British citizen. But these are British citizens who've all been living in Israel, some for a year or so, many for much, much longer, many for 25 years or more.
And what's your prayer finally for this letter?
My prayer is that it will shake Alistair Burt and others out of the received Foreign Office mindset, and that it will make him and others open their Bibles to see what God is doing with the Jewish people in these days, and how Ezekiel 36 and Zechariah 12 are being fulfilled before our very eyes. In Zechariah 12 verse 9, God says, "It shall be in that day that I will seek to destroy all the nations that come against Jerusalem. Britain is pitting herself against Almighty God. My prayer is that Alistair Burt and others will have their eyes opened to the spiritual conflict raging over Israel. I pray they will recognize the need to apologize to the Jewish people for their present-day condemnations and also for the behavior of our nation towards them at the time of the British Mandate, especially turning Holocaust survivors away from their own shores and imprisoning them in detention camps. And that, of course, is why we gave Mr. Burt a copy of The Forsaken Promise, which is available from www.hatikva.co.uk.
Okay, Rosie. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.